I'm Nigel, and I've got no idea what I'm doing. Today, we're going further down the depths of what I've got no idea about. This time, plastic work. This part between the tail lights is known as the rear garnish, and it's not supposed to look like that. The first thing to do is to work out how to get it off, which means making a bit of space to work in the boot. The tail lights are fairly easy to access and just need one plug removed and a few nuts taken off. Then they just pop right out. Well, once you work out you need to pry off that gasket. Then repeat on the other side. With the license plate removed and the inner panel taken off, it is a fairly simple matter of removing a few more nuts, carefully, and then squeezing the barbs on a few clips. With all this done, the panel comes off fairly easily, as well as the broken off piece. Then it's over to the bench to assess the condition of the panel, which was hiding a nasty little surprise. This rather sorry looking bracket needed a bit of precision to remove, as well as a bit of brute force and ignorance. Luckily, I'm pretty good at that kind of thing. Once it was separated, I need to get off the surface rust, which needed a bit of the trusty wire brush. One hasty paint booth later, and it was time for the magic rust converter stuff, before getting back to the panel, which needed a fair bit of filler removed, as well as some filing to get the profiles to match nicely. And then, sanding and more sanding. With this done, it was time to put the two pieces back together as accurately as possible. With them held in place temporarily, I decided to use some good old multifunction duct tape to both hold the parts together and form a roughly flat surface. You'll see why soon. Then the business end of the work, carefully weighing the fiberglass resin and adding the right number of drops of hardener. With the brew mixed up well, it was a matter of carefully putting in the sections of cut fiberglass matting and then dabbing in the mixed up resin so it soaked through the matting. This is done again and again to build up the fiberglass where it is required for strength. I also reinforced a few other sections that I was worried had become a bit brittle, using much the same technique. With the messy bit done, it's time to let the magic of chemistry do its thing. While the fiberglass was curing, it was time to do a bit of cleaning. Not perfect, but good enough for now. After a while, the fiberglass seemed to have hardened nicely. So it was out with the Dremel to clean up the edges. And yes, I was wearing a mask. That fiberglass dust is nasty stuff. Then the exciting part, taking the tape off to see if this actually worked. The idea was that the tape would form a nice smooth inner surface for the resin that came through the crack to form up to. It actually worked out reasonably well, somewhat to my surprise. I reinstalled the rust-treated panel, which required a single pop rivet. Slightly less than my last automotive project. Then more sanding, spraying of putty, and more sanding. Then I set up for the spray job. This panel will need more work, but that's for another time. Right now, it's about getting the brake repaired. Also, it didn't help that I ran out of paint. Good enough for now. After watching the paint dry, I was eager to get the panel back onto the car. I was a bit nervous, but the bolts all seemed to line up and nothing made horrible sounds when I put the clips back on. Well, apart from that. The last thing to do was to put the lights back on. The right way this time. And it's looking fairly good. Okay, that bit's done. Obviously there's more work to be done. That wasn't an aesthetic repair. It was just about getting the parts back together. And there's lots more body work to be done. See you next time.